There's no doubt about it, Rivian has a lot on their plate right now. I mean, it's hard enough to ramp one vehicle as an EV startup, but they're trying to ramp up the pickup truck, the R1T, simultaneously trying to start first deliveries of the R1S, the SUV version, but they have a lot of similarities. And on top of that, they have more orders for the Amazon delivery van than they do of both the R1T and R1S combined, and that van definitely does not share too much in common with the R1T and R1S, so trying to ramp 3 different vehicles all before reaching profitability is going to be very, very challenging. But according to the last shareholder letter Rivian held, they actually do already have kind of a roadmap for what their next generation vehicle is going to be. And don't worry, they mentioned in this shareholder letter they don't expect to deliver it until 2025, so we're absolutely getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. But I mean, it wouldn't be an EV company without having some kind of undelivered, unannounced product. I mean, Tesla has as many vehicles that they have delivered as they haven't delivered. So I figured we should talk about this because it's exciting, for me at least, that 5 times during the last shareholder deck they referenced the R2 platform. So the next generation fleet of Rivians, and they even detailed what they were kind of targeting with this next generation, which is that the R2 is going to be a more accessibly priced mid-sized SUV that's targeted for more global markets. But this was in reference to them talking about their Georgia facility. So right now, all Rivians are built out of Normal, Illinois, and they've already secured the property for their Georgia facility, and the R2 platform, I guess, is going to be built there. So this, of course, got a lot of gears turning in my head. As you guys know, I love speculation, and I love thinking about the theoreticals or what direction they may go in, and Rivian basically laid out their timeline and expectations for their next vehicle model, which sounds, honestly, very similar to the R1S, because that's pretty much as close as we have to a full-size SUV in the EV community. I mean, people have very weird and very specific definitions of what a full-size versus mid-size SUV could be, but the reason I consider the R1S a full-size is that 7 seats are a standard with that vehicle, and it definitely has a lot of storage space on the inside. I cannot think of a single other EV on the market where 7 seats is standard, so I'm going to consider the R1S a more premium, luxury, full-size SUV, but now the R2 that they're working on is specifically going to be targeted at being more accessible, so more affordable. This is great news because, in my opinion, that's the only problem I see with Rivian's vehicles. I love the interior design, I love the software, I love the key fobs, I love the flashlights and the doors, I love the off-roading, performance, and range, and hopefully they can get going on the Adventure Network. But despite all of that, my biggest problem is still, they're just too dang expensive, you know, because I think there's a lot of people that want Rivians but simply can't justify the price that they're going to have to charge for them. And it's exciting to know that the R2 could be going in the other direction, but I'm asking myself, how do they do a mid-size SUV alongside the full-size R1S, and how do they not cannibalize each other, right? Well, it's probably because the R2 has got to drop some things, and this is always the far more interesting subject in my opinion, because it's easy for us to go, you know, the lucid route and just have an infinite budget and just try to imagine the most amazing vehicle you can, give it massaging seats, heated and cooling seats, and have a glass canopy, and just try to make the best possible vehicle in the world. But what's more interesting to me is, okay, what do you take out so that you can save a decent amount of money by going with the R2, but not cannibalize the sales of the R1S? I think a fairly easy differentiating factor would be going with a 5-seater instead of a 7. So because this is more of a mid-size SUV, it probably won't be as long, so the 5 seats will be comfortable, but 7 seats would just be too much of a stretch, so there's just going to be a bit more storage space in the back. And I also expect for dual motor to be basically the only option with the R2, because the quad motor is insanely impressive and great at off-roading, but if you're trying to save on cost, then quad motor I don't think is necessarily something that needs to be there on the R2. I also think that despite the Rivian interior being quite beautiful, and I love looking inside it, it's fairly complicated. There's a lot of intricate design cues, and I think Rivians in general are just a bit too logo heavy, so maybe with the R2 they could scale back on the interior complexity and perhaps just go with a single display in the center. Drop the driver display, maybe drop the ventilated seats, maybe drop a lot of that wood paneling, and they might even look into redesigning the steering wheel, gear stalks, or seats into something that's a bit more streamlined, less complex, that goes even more minimal, which may turn some people away. But again, there's a reason the R1S is starting at, you know, $72,500 $1,000 for the absolute base trim, so the R2 is supposed to be even more affordable than that, and you gotta look for places for them to drop cost. So a powered hatchback seems pretty standard these days, but maybe the powered frunk won't necessarily make it to the R2. I feel like the Rivian headlight design is way too iconic, so they gotta keep using those headlights, but maybe you don't need to include the green LEDs that light up when charging. I don't know how much that would save, but I could see that easily being a luxury feature in the future. And I also think that charging port might be worth redesigning, something that could be a bit more simple, less moving parts, and something that you could ramp up production of a lot faster. Unfortunately, Rivian didn't give us really much of a ballpark price range to estimate, but considering that I assume it wants to be lower than both the R1T and R1S, and they're going after the midsize SUV market, which is very saturated, but rightfully so, because that's like the most popular vehicle segment in the US right now. So my guess is that they want to match and compete with the pricing of the Tesla Model Y more closely. Like, after the federal tax credit, yeah, you could probably get the Rivian R1T to close to the price of the Model Y, but Rivian's not going to be delivering any of the $67,500 R1Ts until 2024. Model Y pricing could be totally different by then because production will have ramped across multiple continents, so maybe Model Ys will be cheaper by then, but my ballpark estimate is that the R2 with a dual motor powertrain will start around $55,000, likely with a 250, 260 mile range. Hopefully with an LFP battery, because Rivian has expressed interest in switching to that chemistry in the future, and then there will be a large pack option that can go over 300 miles for $60,000 or $63,000. I still expect Rivian to make the off-roading capability as good as possible, and of course, likely a lot of bells and whistles will be removed with the R2. Maybe you don't need the flashlight in the door, maybe you don't need the Bluetooth speaker to come out of the center console, and they might streamline the paint color options quite a bit and just have 4 or 5 to choose from instead of, 8 to 10. But I'm curious if any other compromises you guys think Rivian should make with the R2. Do you think they should go with a coil suspension instead of an air suspension to save on cost? Help them reach a wider, more addressable market? We got lots of time to figure out all these ideas because, of course, this vehicle won't be in production until 2025, but I figured I'd let you guys in on what Rivian's current plans are, and hopefully we'll get an official unveiling of the R2 within the next year or so, because the Rivian R1T was unveiled many, many years before they started delivering it. That seems to be a common trend in the EV space, so it makes sense that they would want to maybe unveil the R2 in 2023. All your predictions and speculations, let me know what you're thinking down in the comments below. Thank you to everyone on Patreon supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again, take care, have an excellent rest of your day.